Magic isn't exactly in my line, but when it goes underwater, I'm naturally curious. That's why I was watching Baldwin the Great during a brief holiday at Florida's Silver Springs. Baldwin was a real ham, but his assistant was so pretty that even without a professional interest, I would have enjoyed the performance. Besides, the act intrigued me. I watched it closely. The girl was put into a straitjacket, then into a steamer trunk. There was no apparatus, no false bottom, no place for an air hose. Then the trunk was closed and locked. Heavy chains were wrapped around several times and tightly secured with 3 padlocks. Someone from the audience came up to check the trunk. The chains and locks were the real thing. Finally, 2 attendants took this human cargo out to a deep part of the lake and tossed it overboard. It sank immediately. The magician claimed that his powers of concentration would defy death and free the girl. And sure enough, 5 minutes later, a dangerously long time, she bobbed to the surface with a smile. The trick fascinated me, and so did the underwater techniques that I knew it required. I decided to watch the next performance from the bottom of the lake. I put on my equipment and went down. I swam over to the spot where they dropped the trunk and hid myself. I saw the trunk fall to the bottom. Soon, as I expected, a diver arrived with a ring of keys. He opened one padlock, then another, but he fumbled on the last. A cold chill went through me as I counted off the crucial seconds that were wasted. Finally, he got it open, pulled off the chains, and opened the trunk. Mr. Baldwin, my name is Mike Nelson. I've been watching your act. Very clever.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Verna, I'd like you to meet the real star of our show, Miss Verna Carlson.
Miss Carlson?
How do you do?
I'm sure glad that you liked our act, Mr. Nelson. We've gone over real big.
Well, I didn't say that I liked it. That's what I want to talk to you about, the way it's being done. It's too dangerous.
My friend, you missed the whole point of the act. If you know anything about show business, you'd realize that the popularity of the act is due entirely to that illusion of danger.
No, there's nothing wrong in fooling an audience, but why take any unnecessary chances? That's what your diver was doing.
Where did you get the absurd idea that we're using a diver?
I was down there today during the performance. He had a lot of trouble with those keys.
What are you trying to do, steal my act? Who sent you here?
Harry, please don't get yourself excited.
It's happening again. They're sending spies. They're trying to steal our act.
I'm not trying to steal your act. I was just curious. So I went down and took a look. You being the boss, I thought I should tell you how I felt about it all.
He's right, Harry. I did fumble those keys. Heard a lot about you, Mike. My name's Bill Davies.
Bill, nice to know you. You know, what happened down there today could very easily happen again.
You listen to me, Nelson. For 20 years, I've devised every type of escape act, and I've never had an accident, and I never will.
Look, magic is your business. Underwater work is mine. And from what I saw down there, well, if you care about this girl's life, you'll do something about it.
I care a great deal. But I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to scare us so you'll break up the act. But it won't work, you understand? It won't work!
Thanks for talking to us, Mr. Nelson. I think you'd better leave now.
Mr. Nelson?
Well, hi. I was hoping you two would show up. Sit down.
I feel dreadful the way Harry acted yesterday, Mr. Nelson. I'm sorry.
One of these days, his temper's gonna get the better of him and he'll crack up completely.
Is he always like that?
No, you've got to know him. You see, he had a great act, and then his wife and partner stole it and ran off. And he cracked up. He wasn't able to work for years.
I can't blame him. The guy's impossible.
You know that's not true, Bill. He can be kind and generous. It's just that he was hurt, so he doesn't trust people anymore.
Except you.
Please, Bill. Mr. Nelson, do you have some suggestions about making our routine safer?
What do you think of the possibility of hiding a diving lung in that trunk?
It's impossible. There's no room.
Well, you could put some sort of a seal on it. That'd keep the air inside and give you a little margin of safety.
Well, Harry might go for that.
And, you might try aerating your lungs with oxygen just before they locked you in.
Spoil the act. Poor showmanship.
Better than drowning.
Yeah, that's right. And, Bill, from your angle, that trouble that you had yesterday.
Yeah, well, that was my fault entirely, Mike. The lock got jammed and I was a little flustered. Baldwin cleans and oils the locks every day.
You ought to double-check them anyway. What if something happened to one of those locks? You couldn't open it.
I guess I'd break it.
You might not have time. What you need down there is another man. You know, in case something goes wrong.
That's a great idea, but I don't think Baldwin would go for the added expense.
Well, there's no harm in asking him. I know he wouldn't want anything to happen to me.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Mike, for the ideas. I hope Baldwin will buy some of them.
Yeah, I do, too. Good luck to you. I was getting ready to leave for Tampa on business when I was surprised by a visit from Baldwin.
Hi, Nelson.
Oh, hello.
I want to apologize for my actions. I feel terribly sorry. I found out who you were and your reputation as a skin diver, and I realized you're only trying to help.
Oh, that's right. That's all I was trying to do.
Verna told me that she spoke to you and that you had a suggestion that we have another diver.
In an emergency, it might mean the difference between life and death.
Yes, I realize that. See, I'm not a diver, and I worked the whole act out on paper. Would you like to take the job, Mr. Nelson?
Well, thanks just the same, but I'm tied up.
Well, could you get somebody for me? I don't want to take any chances, especially with the girl I'm going to marry.
Oh?
Yes, if things go well here in Silver Springs, we'll sign a big contract, and then I'm going to ask Verna to marry me.
Oh, I see.
Now, about that diver. Do you think you could get him here for tomorrow's show?
Well, there's a fellow in Miami. He's an ex-frogman by the name of Johnny Talbot. He's a very good diver. I could contact him for you if you wanted me to.
Oh, I certainly appreciate that. And do you think you could have him here by tomorrow morning?
I'll try.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. I want to offer you my apologies again. I guess the only excuse I have, when a man reaches my age and he falls deeply in love, well, sometimes he gets a little irrational. Good luck.
I went back to my room and placed a call to Johnny Talbot. He agreed to take the job.
You know, the longer you put it off, the harder it's going to be when you finally do tell him.
It'll just be a few more days, Bill, I promise. Harry gets his contract. It won't be such a disappointment to him.
Sure you're not going to mind not being the star anymore?
Bill, all I want to do is settle down with you to a nice, quiet, peaceful, happy life.
You know, the thought of coming home every night, finding you there, cooking dinner.
I can't cook. Does that matter to you very much?
Not very much.
How about that swim?
Okay.
Mr. Baldwin?
Yes?
I'm Johnny Talbot, Mike Nelson's friend.
Well, what do you want?
Mike said that you wanted to hire me. I'm a diver.
I'm terribly sorry, young man, but you've got me at a loss. Who is this Mike?
Mike Nelson. He said he spoke with you, that it was all set.
I don't know anybody by that name.
Oh, now, wait a minute, Mr. Baldwin. I gave up another job for this.
I'm terribly sorry, young man. I wish I could help you. But your friend must have pulled some kind of a practical joke on you.
Hello? Who'd you say was calling? Oh, yeah, sure. Put him on. Hi, Johnny.
Okay, Mike. Now, what's the gag?
Gag? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
This guy Baldwin claims he never told you to hire anybody. You cost me a job. Now, that's the gag.
You mean he doesn't want you? You sure you got the right man, Harry Baldwin?
I talked with him all right. I'm telling you, he said he never hired me. Now, what are you going to do about it? You got me into this.
Let me talk to him. I'll put him on the phone. Is he there?
I'm calling from a booth. He claims he doesn't know you. What kind of crummy gag is this, Mike?
I don't know, Johnny. I swear, I don't know. Wait a minute. What time is the first performance of Baldwin's act go on, you know?
The posters say 1:30.
I'll be there as fast as I can. You wait for me, huh?
I'll be waiting for you, Mike.
From what Johnny told me, I knew something was very wrong. And I had a hunch it was serious and urgent.
Everything set, Harry?
Everything except that safety man. He phoned he's been held up. He won't be able to make the afternoon show, but he'll be here tonight.
Well, then maybe we shouldn't do the first show.
We've got a contract. We've got to work. But don't worry about it, Verna. Bill's double-checked the locks. There's nothing to worry about.
Oh, let's do it, Bill. It'll be all right.
Okay. But this is the last performance this way, right?
Right, Bill. Absolutely. You two kids better get ready. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. You are about to witness the most incredible demonstration of magic in the history of the art. Before your very eyes, you will see the impossible accomplished in the most daringly dangerous, spine-tingling escape act ever seen. Ladies and gentlemen, the young creature who dares to defy death itself, the girl in the trunk, Miss Verna Carlson. Ladies and gentlemen, your full attention, please. In the next few moments, Miss Carlson will be put into a straitjacket and then confined to this trunk. But first, to preclude the slightest possibility of trickery, I would like this trunk to be thoroughly examined. I would like a volunteer from the audience, please. How do you do, sir? I understand that you're the president of the local bank. Is that true?
No, sir, just the cashier.
The cashier? Well, that's close enough to the money for me. Excellent. You see, sir, we have here an ordinary steamer trunk. You will notice there is no possibility of a false bottom, as the dimensions on the inside read exactly the same as the dimensions on the outside. Is that not correct?
Right.
I wish you to examine the top and sides of this trunk, sir. Do not take my word for anything. If there is the slightest possibility of a device whereby this trunk can be opened from the inside, show it to me and you will receive our standing offer of $5,000. Gentlemen, the trunk.
I went back to my underwater hiding place and watched. The trunk tumbled down. Bill came out and started to work on the padlocks.
One minute, ladies and gentlemen.
The first two opened easily, but he was having trouble again with the third. I realized that Baldwin must have sabotaged the lock in his jealousy. I rushed in to help. Bill was beside himself and didn't understand what I had in mind. I had brought something along that he didn't carry, a magnesium flare. A dangerous thing to carry underwater, but I was glad that I had it today. It was our only hope to get Vern out of that trunk in time. through the lock like a torch. We ripped off the chains, and Bill gave her air, just in time.
Three minutes and 30 seconds.
He freed her from the jacket, and we went up together. This time, 3 heads bobbed to the surface, and there were no smiles. Take care of her.
You better take me to the police, Mr. Nelson.
Hi there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is certainly a lot of fun, and it's full of adventure. See some more of it again next week, huh? When there'll be another excursion into that fabulous underwater world of Sea Hunt.
Sometimes the most advanced ideas take us to the most primitive parts of the world. That's why I was diving one summer at the bottom of a remote South American lake. It wasn't rare fish that I was after, but a weed. A weed with special properties. Above me in our boat was my employer, Professor Auerbach, and his daughter. The professor was doing a research project for a pharmaceutical company. He was using the fibers of this plant to make a culture for a new wonder drug that he was developing. He was so devoted to his work that he had made the trip himself into this wilderness, and he was as impatient as a schoolboy. I'd found a good spot and began gathering the plants. It was hard work at that depth, and I couldn't possibly work fast enough or stay down long enough to please the professor. In his enthusiasm, he minimized the problems of working underwater. In fact, all the problems of our project, including the hostility of the local fishermen to this abrupt intrusion of the 20th century into their age-old way of life.
Just after you went below. What do we do?
We'll ignore them. Pretty hard to ignore a gun. Have you tried talking to him?
Well, I'm a bacteriologist, not a diplomat.
I'll give it a try.
How's your Spanish?
Not too good. Senor, puedo hablarle. Estamos amigos.
Amigos. What is this thing you have on your back?
It gives me air when I'm underwater. I'm just getting this weed here.
You will not be funny with me, mister.
It's the truth. It's a special kind of a weed. It's for this gentleman here. He's a bacteriologist.
What does he want with the weed?
He's going to make a medicine from it.
Medicine? On the bottom of the lake? You think that I believe that? You have come for the fish. You have a way to capture hundreds of them all in one time, huh? You will frighten away the fish as the big steel air boats have frightened away the ducks and they don't come back.
Steel air boats?
No, you must mean a jet plane. There's a jet airbase nearby. Look now. We're telling you the truth. We're not after your fish.
We stay. We wash.
Well, let's move to another spot. Bottom of the lake must be covered with these weeds.
What if it isn't? I'll waste a lot of time looking around for another spot.
I'll pitch in and help. I'll dive alongside.
Oh, I don't think that's wise.
I think it's very wise. Come on, Pedro.
Any reason why I shouldn't dive?
No reason.
Thought you said he was an expert diver.
He is.
Well, what's the problem then?
No problem. Being his daughter, I have a right to worry about him, don't I?
we got rid of him anyway.
I hope so.
How you feel?
Trim as an eel. I'll beat you down by 50 feet.
You've dived deep water, huh?
Yeah, it's 100 feet or so.
That's a lot deeper here.
Dad, now you be careful.
Both of you are acting like I'm a 10-year-old going in for his first swim. Well?
Dad, your glasses.
Oh.
For an old man, the professor seemed to handle himself unusually well, even though he wasn't accustomed to diving, especially at these depths. It seemed to me that Marion had no reason to worry about him. Another bed of plants, and Professor Auerbach was very pleased. All he could think of was his precious plants and gathering them as fast as he could. But I knew that overexertion at this depth could be extremely harmful, especially if you aren't used to it. So after a while, I suggested that we call it a day. The professor started up. I followed. Then it happened. The sudden appearance of a big alligator was too much for the professor. He knew that they wouldn't bother a diver, but panic made him forget everything. He shot to the surface as fast as he could. The rapid change of pressure was sure to be dangerous, but he was gone before I could stop him. I had to go up slowly myself, for the change in pressure would get me, too.
Pedro! Pedro! Hurry! Hurry!
I can't stand this.
It's about time. Where were you?
How bad are they?
Oh, it's unbearable.
What's happened to him?
It's a bad case of the bends. Come on, Pedro. Help me.
For heaven's sakes, what are you doing?
The only thing I can do. Take him back. No.
Are you out of your mind or something?
Take it. You're going to kill him.
Kill him?
Yes. He needs a decompression chamber.
A decompression chamber, but we don't...
There's no time to explain. Every second counts. Give me that marker board, huh, Pedro? Hold it. Hold it, Pedro. Now listen. You're going to feel all right. Much better when you get down there. You understand? Hand me those weight belts, huh? When we get down.
Oh.
Does he fix his mask all right? You got your mouthpiece? All right, let's go. Put him around the shoulder, huh? That's right. The other one? Okay, fella. Let's go.
Marion was almost hysterical, but there was no time to explain to her how her father's body had become riddled with tiny air bubbles. A return to the heavy pressure below would get rid of those bubbles and keep more from forming. This would give the professor some relief. But he couldn't stay down there very long. Bringing him slowly to the surface in the usual way wouldn't be adequate now. His body had had a terrible shock. He needed several hours of decompression, the kind that he could get only inside a chamber. This signal line was now his only link with us, and with life. A link that would be broken permanently if we couldn't find a decompression chamber. A hopeless task in this wilderness.
He's down below.
You left him down there by himself?
I had to. That's all I could do. We need help. Oh, no. That's all we need. Well, it gives me an idea. Keep your eye on that marker down there. Let me know if your father signals. G57, G57, calling anyone, emergency. G57, G57, calling anyone, emergency, over.
Delmonico here. What is your trouble? Over.
I want to contact the jet air base near Lake Valdez, over.
Just a minute. I will look up the band and call number. Over.
Hurry, please, over. Now, don't worry. He'll be all right for a while. I checked his air, I checked everything.
What if we can't get help?
Well, we'll find another way.
What way? You know there's nothing out here.
G57, Delmonico, over.
This is G57. Come on in, Delmonico. Over.
That Valdez Air Base call number is G-64. Ban 20-40. Over.
Roger. Thanks. G57, over and out. Come in, G64.
G57, this is G54.
This is an emergency. We have a case of the bends here, and we're miles from any decompression chamber. Over.
G57, bring him to the airbase immediately for treatment.
There's no way to get him there in time. Now listen, this is what I have in mind. I've done some work with pressure suits back in the States. Your Air Force uses them for high-altitude flying, isn't that right? Over.
Yes, over.
That's what I figured. Now, how quick can you fly one to me? We're in the north end of Lake Valdez. Over.
G57, it will take 20 minutes.
That's great. Tell them to look for a smoke flare, huh? Hurry. G57, over and out. Well, got ourselves a pressure suit.
Poor Dad. I never did understand what the bends were. Must be awful.
The bends are, well, they're kind of like opening a soda pop bottle too fast. The sudden release of pressure creates all those bubbles. When your father came up too fast, the sudden release of pressure on him created all those bubbles in his body. And nitrogen bubbles all throughout his whole system. They're very painful, and they can be fatal unless you get rid of them right away. The only way to do that is to cap the bottle or take your father down to the bottom again.
Well, I thought we needed a decompression chamber for that.
We do. That's a little too heavy to drop. Next best thing to it is the pressure suit.
Will it really work?
Well, I don't know if it's ever been tried before, but it should work. The Air Force uses it for supersonic flights at tremendous altitudes. And the body undergoes the same kind of pressure changes down below as it does up there. Look at that. Market boy, get that extra tank for me, will you? Now, if that jet comes by, be sure and put up a smoke flare, huh? On the way down, I hoped and prayed that all he needed was another tank of air. Back to the surface now with no decompressor waiting for him would be inviting death. But he was losing consciousness. I had to take him up now.
But wait.
Wait? How much longer can we wait? Look at him.
Listen. Pedro, get that smoke flare.
In the docks!
He's going away again!
No. He's just turning around. He's gonna come in low before he drops it. There he comes.
Look! The pressure suit!
Take it, senor.
Wouldn't do you any good. It was dropped for us.
Carlos, you will bring it in the boat.
The other man on my boat is very sick. His life depends on this.
Carlos.
If I don't get this to him in time, I'm going to hold you responsible for his death.
Get in the boat. We will see.
Here, help me. Gonna be all right now, fella? Is he all zippered up there? On your side? Now, give me the hose, huh? All right, kick it over. Works. Give me that folder.
The pressure suit would only become effective when attached to an air compressor. I wasn't sure if the one we used for our diving lungs would do the trick, if the two fishermen would leave us alone long enough to use it. We had to follow the tables which prescribed how much pressure to use and how long to use it.
How long will it take?
Hours. It's like bringing him up to the surface very, very slowly.
Is he out of danger?
A little prayer might help.
Carlos, escopeto. Senor, you steal this from the bottom. It is food for our fish.
Plenty more where that came from.
It belongs here. It belongs to us.
Listen, the fish belong here too. But you catch them and sell them, don't you?
See, we sell.
All right. Why don't you catch this weed and sell that to us?
You pay?
Yeah, sure, we pay. Professor needs a lot of this. Much more than we can gather.
How much you need?
Enough to keep you busy when you're not catching any fish.
We had brought the professor back to surface pressure. Time and rest would complete the cure.
How do you feel, Dad?
Sorry I behaved so badly down there, Mike.
Forget about that. You're okay, that's the important thing. And you found what you were looking for.
Yes. Yes, how soon will I be able to start gathering the weed?
If I were you, I wouldn't worry about that.
I'll worry, of course I worry. We only have them. Great Scott, where did he come from? Well, look at him, he's going to take the weed.
No, he's going to find you some more. I made a deal with him while you slept.
Alfonso, ¿habláis muy bienes?
Sí.
¿Mucho dinero?
Sí. Ven out por él.
Here. Hey, take this. But be careful.
Gracias.
Ándele.
This is G64. G64. Calling G57. Over.
G57, come on in, G64.
How did the pressure suit work out?
It worked. Thanks. G57 over and out.
Well,
Professor Auerbach got his plants after all, and the local people were given a small introduction to what was to become a new prosperity and a new way of life.
Hello there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. You know, 3/5 of the world is covered by the sea, and how little most of us know about that underwater world. Go below with us again next week, huh? For another thrilling adventure in Sea Hunt.
started out as a spearfishing party, but it didn't end that way. It ended with my flight for dear life and being chased by a man with a scooter and a double-barreled spear gun. He took careful aim, and he pressed the trigger. Luckily for me, the currents were strong, and he missed me by an inch. And there was a cave where I could find refuge. It was a Sunday morning. A party of sports divers had chartered one of Avalon Air Transport's planes for a day's outing. I had taken them out before. They were all very good skin divers and could have managed without me, but Avalon Air Transport had felt it necessary for me to look after them. Our takeoff was delayed. One of our passengers didn't show up. The rest of them were old friends. Queenie Miller, probably the most popular girl in Anaheim before she married DeWitt Miller. That was last month. Our pilot, Dick Talbot, skipper of Avalon Air Transport. Jack Paget, a sportscaster, and a fine athlete himself. Eddie Mahar, the top salesman of life insurance. Always acts like the man most likely to need it. And Ella Palmer, holder of 2 swimming records. Also designs bathing suits. Fills them pretty well, too.
Mike, what island are we headed for?
About 90 miles out. San Granada.
San Granada?
Is that a restricted area?
Yeah, secret Navy stuff and all that?
We'll be on the lee side. It's the other side of the island that's restricted.
Hey, what's that spear gun?
What do you mean?
It seems to me that I had to speak to you about this the last trip.
Oh, it's not cocked.
They never are.
Okay, Teach.
All right, stow it aboard. Point side down. What are we gonna do about our missing passenger?
He's a half hour late. Bill Richards. Checked in 2 weeks ago. No cancellation.
Well, you want to wait for him any longer?
Well?
Hey, wait a minute. It wasn't Richards. It was a complete stranger. He looked friendly. Much too friendly.
Mr. Nelson?
Yeah, that's me.
I'm George Peterson.
Mr. Peterson? Dick Talbot.
How do you do? Hi.
All right, George.
Bill Richards couldn't make it, so I'll be using his reservation.
Is that all right with you, Dick?
It's okay with me. Space is paid for.
Good.
Well, I take it you've done some diving before.
Well, enough. You don't have to worry about me.
That's pretty fancy equipment you got there. Triple tank, double-barrel spear gun. You want to be careful with this. I have to check you out on it first.
Well, I've heard about you. How thorough you are. I'm all for it.
Well, I haven't lost a man yet. Come on, let's get aboard.
Oh, wait a minute. It isn't all here yet.
A sea scooter, huh?
Yeah. A friend of mine's making those. I told him I'd test it for him.
Well, that sea scooter of yours and this double-barrel spear gun, you ought to be going after whales.
A nice yellowtail will do, thank you.
See if we can do it, arrange it for you. In a few minutes, we were on our way. 5 old diving buddies and a stranger. We were headed for San Granada Island. We found a good spot half a mile offshore. I knew every inch of the bottom. We were above safe skin diving grounds. My first duty was to give our newcomer a thorough checkup, especially with the scooter. He handled himself well and followed my instructions.
Go in a circle.
That's fine. Now go under.
that the fastest it can go?
Yeah. She handles pretty well, but not much speed.
You know, you could get just about the same effect by hitchhiking on a turtle.
Okay, Mr. Peterson, you can use it. At that rate of speed, you're not apt to hurt yourself. Or anyone else for that matter, but I am going to have to ask you to cruise only in reasonable circles and away from the others. With the exception of your own partner, of course.
Thank you.
But don't go very far off now. If anything happens to you, I want to be able to take care of you. You're my responsibility, you know.
That's understood.
All right. Now, let me see. We might as well get paired off here. Queenie and DeWitt. Can't break that up.
You couldn't.
George hasn't been out with us before. Ella, you better go with him, huh? Jack, you buddy up with Eddie.
Well, thanks. I don't deserve it.
Well, that does it. Just remember now, huh? Stick close to your partner. Don't let him out of your sight for a minute. And, don't take any chances. Let's have fun. Get wet, huh?
The underwater picnic was well underway. It was time for me to inspect my charges. Eddie and Jack had cornered a fair-sized sea bass in a cave. Eddie's aim was good. The fighting fish stirred up the bottom. Eddie held on. He had no intention of losing a tasty dinner. I swam on. Queenie and her husband were swimming together, hand in hand. This was their underwater honeymoon. They left the fish alone and admired the underwater scenery. They had found the sunken hull of an old lifeboat. But not even the scenery could take their minds off each other for long. Ella and Mr. Peterson were getting along fine. He was taking picture after picture of Ella, who carried on like a high-fashion model underwater, all in good fun. I didn't know then that Mr. Peterson had his camera along for a different purpose. I joined them in their fun, but Peterson didn't seem to appreciate my intrusion. Then I surfaced, believing that everything was all right below.
How's your gang getting along?
Oh, they're having a ball.
Now Peterson was testing his scooter. Ella was hanging on, enjoying the ride. Suddenly, she sighted a turtle. It was just like Ella to hitch a ride. She was determined to give a race to the scooter, but the turtle had a mind of his own and carried her in a different direction. Peterson had been waiting for something like this. The truth was that he had wanted no part of the buddy system. With nobody watching, he turned on full power. The scooter had a lot more speed than George Peterson had revealed to us before. Enough speed to go after shark, or even bigger game. How much bigger and more deadly, we didn't know just then. George Peterson, a stranger in my diving group, was heading out at full speed, and he knew exactly where he was going. Meanwhile, Ella couldn't find her buddy. George Peterson was nowhere in sight. Out of sight, out of reach. Ella was looking in all directions. She couldn't understand what had happened to George. I was playing chess on the top of the plane, believing that everything was smooth down below. I knew that with the buddy system, if anything happens to one, there's the other to give a quick assist.
Oh, I gotta make my rounds.
Just because I got you in a bind?
What are you talking about? Oh, I gotta get down there. Look, you just leave everything just the way it is, huh? You haven't won this game yet. Not a long shot.
I hadn't been down long when I spotted Ella. I could see that something was wrong. She indicated that Peterson was gone. I signaled her to surface immediately to find out what had happened.
How long ago did it happen?
10 minutes anyway, maybe 20.
Did he seem to be in any trouble?
No, he was just lazing around on his sea scooter about 20 feet from me. Everything seemed to be fine.
What was he doing? Was he using his spear gun?
No, nothing. That's just it.
What about calling in the Coast Guard?
No, not yet. He's probably just giving that sea scooter of his a workout. See, he's got 3 tanks, so he's got plenty of air.
Well then, why don't we just wait around a while and give him a chance to turn up?
Still he could be in trouble. Then I'll take a chance. I'm gonna have them all resurface. That way, if we see any bubbles, we'll know they belong to him. You get Queenie into wind, huh? You'll find them in the area of that rock. I'll get Jack and Eddie.
While we were worried about him above, he was getting away from us below at an underwater speed of 12 knots per hour.
I'd rev up the ship and haul you around for a look.
No, you better not. He might pop up right in front of it. We'll use this raft for the search. You got a pair of binoculars?
Yeah, 2 pair.
Good. You might get up on your wing there, huh? Watch the surface. If you see any bubbles, give me a shout, huh? Well, there's one thing. That scooter of his is so slow. You won't be very far off.
Dick was scanning the horizon with his strong binoculars. There were no telltale bubbles anywhere within sight. We made a careful search pattern in the raft, spiraling outward to the limits of what we thought was the scooter's range.
No luck. What about you?
We didn't see anything either.
Let's take the plane up, huh?
Good. Sometimes you can see down in the water much better that way.
I'm going up with Dick. The rest of you keep working from the raft, huh? Or offshore. Cover the same territory that you've been covering. Yeah, let me give you a hand here. All right, now, if you see anything, send up a flare.
Circling and circling. No luck. I could see the raft searching, too. I was hoping to see a flare shoot up to tell us they had found something, but no sign. I never lost a diver before. I certainly don't like the feeling.
Why not widen our search pattern?
There's no swimmer could swim any further than we've been looking. That scooter of his wouldn't help any. You saw how slow it was, didn't you?
What if he got caught in the current?
Oh, not in this area.
Supposing he speared something big and started to tow him.
There's nothing to lose, I guess. Okay. Make a sweep to the end of the island, huh?
We were flying low, but there was no trace of Peterson or his bubbles anywhere below.
I don't know, but what if, do you suppose that he could somehow have gotten into there?
I was thinking the same thing. You've checked out everything else. I'm game. Do you want to check this one?
Okay, call the Navy. Ask for special permission to enter, Zone 1.
Now we were over the restricted zone, miles away from our skin diving grounds. I kept scanning the surface with binoculars. It was hard to believe that Peterson could go this far. Suddenly, I noticed something on the ocean surface.
Bubbles. Looks like bubbles.
There was no mistake. The bubbles came from an air lung. He was down below. I swam toward the spot cautiously. Then I saw him. He didn't see me. He was too busy taking pictures. At first, he looked like a harmless camera bug, until I looked beyond him and saw what he was photographing. A very secret underwater installation. A new kind of platform to launch rockets from below the surface. He changed his position to snap it from another angle. Peterson had come a long distance underwater to take pictures of a weapon that was top secret. The films in that camera of his were pure dynamite. I knew one thing. I had to take him by surprise. I grabbed his camera before he knew what hit him, and I was on my way. My only hope was to surface before he could reach his scooter. But his reflexes were fast, and he got his scooter going before I had a chance to swim very far. The camera was dragging and slowed me down more than I liked. While he had a fast scooter to propel him now, and a double-barrel spear gun. I had to zigzag to avoid being a good target. Then I saw a cave. If I could get inside that cave before him, it could mean my life. He saw the cave, too. He aimed and pressed the trigger. The card was strong, deflecting the spear. He missed me by a few inches. I was swimming toward the cave with all my might. He pressed the second trigger. He missed again. He was right behind me when I disappeared into the darkness of the cave. As he entered, I lunged at him from the side. He fought with surprising strength, but I knew what I was after. I got hold of his air hose and choked off his air supply. He struggled desperately, but soon couldn't bear any more. Without air, the strongest man goes limp and defenseless. There was no fight left in him by the time we surfaced. He was smart enough to know that the jig was up, especially when he noticed the gun in Dick's hand.
Missing man. Also some first-class photographs of the underwater launching platform.
Espionage, huh? Did he give you any bad time?
Not for long. Go on, get in there. Keep your gun on him. I'm going back down.
I knew they needed the camera and its film for evidence. I went back to the cave to get the camera and the scooter. Peterson's little excursion was going to put him behind bars for many years.
Hi there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is certainly a lot of fun, and it's full of adventure. See some more of it again next week, huh? When there'll be another excursion into that fabulous underwater world of Sea Hunt.
Two strange worlds are opening up to all of us today. One is the world beneath the sea. The other is the alien world of outer space. Strange as it may seem, there are many things that both these worlds have in common. There are problems of adjustment to unusual sensations, such as weightlessness or the release from the force of gravity in both elements. That's why I was called in on one of the space projects and commissioned to experiment underwater with 4 top candidates for space travel. I was to train them to function in isolation while breathing compressed air and to teach them how to deal with the unexpected. The 4 young pilots checked out well in our offshore experiments. Dr. Adams, a specialist in space medicine, and I agreed that they were ready for the big test.
The point is to think before you act, especially when you're in a strange environment. That's what you fellas are training for, a strange environment. All right, Doc, let's open up those orders for Phase 3 of Operation Moondive, huh? Hold this chart for me, huh? All right. The Research Institute has set up a supply dump. It's located in the bottom of the ocean in 60 feet of water. See enclosed chart. Sure it is. Now, that supply dump is about 30 miles... Yeah, about 30 miles in from the sea, from the coast there. You'll do mental and physical exercises down there for a solid 6-hour stretch. Oh, boy, 6 hours. You'll also eat down there. And you'll exchange your partially filled air tanks for fresh ones at regular intervals. One of you will remain above on the boat as a safety man. And you'll get regular weather reports on the radio. That's very important because we'll be in the area where most of the hurricanes start. This is the season for them, too. Good luck to you, signed John Martin. Well, looks like we got our work cut out for us, fellas.
Sounds rough.
Yeah, especially that 6-hour stretch. You fellas knew what you were volunteering for. You knew it wasn't going to be easy.
We moved out to sea and dropped anchor 30 miles out. I went down to check on our underwater supply dump. There it was. Our underwater outpost, a storehouse of scientifically prepared and packaged food and medicine. Also, the usual underwater equipment like air tanks and flares, and many items never used underwater before.
How's it look down there?
They got everything. It'll be like checking into a first-class hotel. Only it'll be 60 feet down. You get the weather report yet?
Oh, no. Operation Moondive calling Weather Recon. Come in, Recon. Weather Recon, this is Operation Moondive. Come in, please. Mike, we've got troubles.
There's no filament voltage. Maybe it's a transformer.
Have we got a spare?
No. We're gonna have to fix it.
Might be just a loose connection.
I hope so. No weather report, no diving.
Well, look, I'm stuck here as safety man anyhow, and the rest of you guys are ready to dive. I majored in electronics. Why don't you let me take a crack at it?
Okay. We'll go on down. You give yourself about an hour. If you can fix it then, get the weather report and come on down, huh?
An hour should be plenty.
Better be. I like being stuck in this area without a weather report.
We went down in military style. Discipline was part of the test. The men were just as surprised as I had been in the sight of an underwater depot. It seemed confusing, but every flask, every container had a specific and vital purpose. My first instructions were to give the men simple problems in algebra. The idea was to see how much the difficult breathing and strange environment would interfere with their concentration. Dr. Adams helped me to observe their reactions and score their performance. The next phase of our experiment was to learn how difficult it was to take adequate nourishment underwater to survive. We tried various methods. We discovered that the simplest action could be difficult at 60 feet. It was a problem to swallow the food capsules. The compressed air made our throats dry, even with all that water around us. We found the easiest method was to sip liquids from the plastic bottles. I kept looking up, hoping to see Ed. I thought that all of our problems were underwater, not knowing that 30 miles away and 20,000 feet up, a Hurricane Hunter plane was reporting the formation of a storm to its base.
Looks bad. Something's forming up out there. Send out small craft warnings.
Hurricane Hunter had flown into the eye of a storm that turned out to be of hurricane force.
We're heading into the storm area now, Commander. It's a big one. Looks like a hurricane heading due north at 15 knots. Over.
Over and out. Issue general warnings to all craft. That research outfit is directly in its path. Calling Operation Moondive. Calling Operation Moondive. Come in. This is urgent. Come in, Moondive.
Come in, Moondive. Do you read me, Moondive? This is urgent. Come in, Moondive.
This is Moondive. Go ahead.
There is a hurricane approaching. Head for shelter at once. Over.
Roger. Radio was out. Others underwater. Must warn them. Over.
Make it fast. You're running out of time. Over and out.
The next phase of the test was playing games, but with a serious purpose. Still testing coordination. Suddenly, Ed appeared with the worst possible news on his slate. I signaled to the group to follow me to the surface. I swam ahead, up the anchor line. At 20 feet, I could feel the turbulence. When I saw the slack anchor line coming down, I knew that the winds had torn our boat loose. Unless we could find it, we were at the mercy of the storm. I tried to reach the surface to look for the boat. The turbulence hit me like a sledgehammer. I had the fight of my life to get out of it and go back down. The underwater survival test was no longer just an experiment. Using the Morse code, I told them that we had to remain below until the hurricane had passed. That this might mean an indefinite number of hours underwater, and the conservation of our limited air supply was now the difference between living or dying. This meant making no unnecessary movements at all. I kept some of the bad news to myself. I didn't tell them that the cold water would steadily drain the heat from our bodies, or that nitrogen narcosis might easily get us if we stayed down long enough. When I got through, we settled down and waited. Hours passed, and the air in our first set of tanks was used up. Switching from an empty air tank to a full one is a tricky piece of business, unless you've had experience at it. With the compressed air gone, the tanks became buoyant. I made sure that they didn't float away. I had a plan to use in case of extreme emergency. calculated the maximum time our air would last. The odds were heavily against us. I measured the temperature of the water. It was 55 degrees. Much too cold for us to last very long. To keep us warm, I distributed our last capsules of food concentrate. For all we knew, it was our last meal. The checkerboard had been originally built for use in our series of tests. Now, for a while, it helped keep up our morale. After sitting still for so long underwater, the cold began to get us. Tom started to shake uncontrollably. This was no longer a carefully controlled experiment. If Tom's body lost too much heat, he'd lose consciousness soon, which underwater means only one thing: certain death. We tried to massage him. Doc Adams took his temperature. Another new page in underwater medicine. Then he checked his pulse. His temperature was subnormal. To keep him alive, we'd have to increase his body heat. I broke out a flare. The heat from the burning magnesium gave him some relief. I sent up a marker buoy to help anyone who might be looking for us. The storm tore the marker buoy apart. There was nothing left for us now but to wait on in our prison and try to fight off the rising panic that could destroy us. Our air supply was dangerously low, and we were freezing as the water relentlessly sucked the heat from our bodies. I was praying that none of us would crack under the strain. Suddenly, Pete turned violent and tried to surface. We had to use up our precious air to subdue him and bring him down. Doc Adams went for his medical kit. He gave him a tranquilizing shot, but it didn't take effect immediately. Probably the first underwater injection. Sharks, the vultures of the deep, gathered as if sensing our doom. I used our last flare to startle the sharks into a temporary retreat, but I knew that they'd be back. Minutes were all that were left to us. Our air was almost finished. I calculated that we had just enough to get to the surface. If the storm was raging, we'd be killed instantly. But if we didn't go up now, we'd slowly suffocate. We had to take the chance. And luckily, we had some materials for a life raft. The empty tanks that I'd saved might now save our lives. Agonizing work to build a raft in a state of shock. But we finally made it, and we moved up toward whatever was waiting for us on the surface. By the time we reached the surface, the waves had subsided, but we were still cold, and our strength was waning fast. We heard the sound of an engine. The Coast Guard hadn't forgotten us. A helicopter was approaching. It calculated our position and moved in without delay. When the Coast Guard officer threw us a tow line, my companions were saved to be the first crew of a spacecraft. I'd like to make a sizable bet that they'll never have a tougher test than the one that we had in the clear tropical waters off the southern tip of Florida.
Hi there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is certainly a lot of fun, and it's full of adventure. See some more of it again next week, huh? When there'll be another excursion into that fabulous underwater world of Sea Hunt.
I was on a scientific expedition to an uninhabited island about 200 miles from the coast of Central America. With me were my friends, the Masons, Ken and his wife, Joan. We were testing an invention of Ken's which he hoped would be important for national defense. A new device to detect submarines or other metal objects underwater. Ken was monitoring the equipment on shore. The next phase was to test the detector. We used our metal porter subs. Although our experiments had a serious purpose, Joan and I were having a lot of fun. Ken got a good signal as soon as we entered the test zone. His equipment was working fine. As we surfaced, we saw the hull of our boat pulling away.
Hey, where's the boat? Oh, I sent Harry back to the base to get that additional equipment we wanted. Back to the base? He'll be gone for a couple of days. Well, the cave's full of supplies. We're in good shape.
Marooned on a desert island with two handsome men. Wait till I tell the girls in my bridge club about this.
Hey, how about a little lunch, you fortunate female?
All right, we'll have a picnic.
How lucky can you get? She's even a good cook. But she doesn't know anything about electronics.
I do, too. I know where you got the ideas for your invention.
All right, where?
Off the gadget that opens the door at the supermarket.
That's exactly it. She got me.
A loud, continuous signal like that could mean only one thing. Something metal had passed the electronic eye. Something big. There was only one way to find out, and that was to go underwater and see. I approached cautiously. What I saw made a chill run through my body. It was a big submarine. It had no markings, but I knew that it wasn't one of ours. Frogmen were leaving the sub in military order. I kept out of sight and observed them carefully. Their type of diving gear confirmed my fear that this was a foreign sub, one that had no right to be in these waters. I slipped away and hurried back to Ken and Joan.
What are they doing down there?
Well, whatever it is, I'll bet they don't want any witnesses.
That's for sure. You gotta get down here. Come on, let's take this stuff up to the cave, the rest of the supplies. You go ahead. I'll cover up our tracks. Where's the binoculars, you know?
Here they are.
The frogmen were moving toward shore on a raft. If they searched the whole island, they'd be sure to find us.
Wait, what if they find that apparatus we've got underwater?
I was thinking about that, too.
Well, couldn't we bury it?
No, not now. Bottom's crawling with frogmen.
Why don't we send a message to the Navy or the Coast Guard? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the boat's gone and so's the radio.
You know, there's a chance I could whip up a transmitter out of these spare parts back here.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am.
It might be too late. Get down. They found those terminals. They're looking for us.
What'll they do if they find us?
Take it easy, honey.
Now, let's not worry about that until it happens. That small cove. Let's see what they're up to.
They were well armed and had plenty of equipment.
Sounds like they're going to stay a while.
Going to be doing some surveying up here, too.
What makes you think so?
They brought their equipment and some dynamite.
Dynamite? What for?
I have no idea. We'll soon find out, I'm afraid.
A few hours later, we had a part of the answer. They were systematically clearing the bottom close to the island. We realized that a lot more than our own lives was at stake.
Right in there. Look at that. It's on the same line. Hey. Look what happens when you extend that line.
What, the canal?
The Panama Canal. That could be an underwater launching pad. A medium-range ballistic missile fired from there just couldn't miss.
Ken worked desperately all night, trying to improvise a transmitter. Meanwhile, I had another job that was equally urgent.
What are you up to?
We're going to cover up that underwater equipment of ours. Now's the time to do it. While they're still asleep down there on the beach.
What if someone sees you?
What if they see that cable of ours? And they're bound to, sooner or later, if we don't cover it up.
Hold on, I'll go with you.
You stay here.
Look, you can't go.
I'll see you soon, huh?
Take care of yourself, Mike. I've gotten kind of used to you.
Change my mind, Ken. You go, I'll stay here. Stay down.
He made it. Look, you can see his air bubbles.
As soon as I reached the area of the sub, I realized that not everyone was asleep. One of the frogmen was patrolling with a spear gun. Luckily, he didn't spot me. sub seemed quiet. I wouldn't have time to remove the equipment, but I figured that I'd be able to cover up the terminals. I started to use rocks as camouflage. Suddenly, I heard bubbles. I looked up and was face to face with a frogman, aiming a double-barreled spear gun right at me.
Ken, there's someone else there with him.
His first shot missed me, but he had another spear, and I kept moving as fast as I could. I was running for cover, and to get as far from that sub as possible. But even without help, his spear gun gave him all the advantage that he needed, and he stayed right on my heels. My knife and turned to face him. Before he could reach me, Ken had rushed in and stabbed him. He hadn't found me a minute too soon. We left the body behind some rocks, hoping that it wouldn't be discovered. Suddenly, 2 underwater surveyors came by, perhaps looking for the missing man. held our breath to cut down our bubbles and remained hidden. They didn't see us.
Saved my life.
He's quite a guy.
Take a ring check on that. As soon as they find out that one of the men's missing, we better have that transmitter in operation.
How's it going?
It's no good.
What do you mean, Ken? No good. What's the matter? What's
I'm
happening?
stuck.
Huh?
Got to have a real frequency generator. It's the one thing I can't improvise.
Well, Harry will be back with the boat by this evening. It'll be too late, won't it?
Yeah, it'll be too late for Harry, too, when he runs into that gang out there.
What do we do?
I know where I can get you that frequency generator.
What? Where's that? Mike?
No, you don't.
What's he gonna do?
He wants to get it from them.
Mike, you can't do that. There's armed men down there. You wouldn't have a chance.
She's right. I've done this before in the war. It's what I was trained to do.
Most of the men were at sea. I could see that there was only one sentry on guard.
We're sending out a tone.
Good.
We can't hear it, but I'll guarantee you the Navy can.
What do you mean? You're jamming the frequency?
Yeah, good strong signal.
Can you rig up a key and send out a message?
Mike! Mike! I think they found the sentry.
Let's get out of here. Come on, put our gear on.
We gotta send a message.
Just leave it on. Jamming the frequency will make the Navy so mad they'll pinpoint our position in no time. Come on, hurry up.
I knew where there was an underwater cave that might serve as a hiding place. When they lost our bubbles, they thought of an easy method to finish us off. As soon as I saw it, I knew what it was. Delayed action explosives. We had only a few seconds to brace ourselves. Our ears were ringing from the explosions, but the cave broke the force and saved our lives. I knew they'd come in to finish the job, and our air would give out soon. We had to slip away if we could. Out, I saw frogmen quickly disappearing into the sub. I knew immediately that our radio jammer had worked. The Navy had a fix on our position. The sub pulled out at full speed. It was too late. A fast Coast Guard cutter was already closing in to intercept her. I'll be back next week at this same time with another Sea Hunt story. Plan to be with us again, huh? I was investigating a shore area in preparation for an underwater photography contest. The The currents were not too strong and the water was quite clear. I had an exposure meter in a watertight housing to check the light. The light readings looked good to me at all depths. The underwater landscape was fine for photography. It was beautiful and rugged. There seemed to be plenty of marine life, too. I swung around a rock on my way back to the surface. I was surprised to see another diver down here on the bottom. I watched him for a moment or two, trying to figure out what he was up to. All of a sudden, I realized he was in trouble. As I reached him, he grabbed for my mouthpiece. But I saw at once that his own emergency air supply had not been tapped. I pulled the emergency valve, and the air poured into his mouthpiece from his own tanks. As I started him toward the surface, I sized him up. Obviously, he was unfamiliar with his equipment, and he certainly had no business in the water alone, inexperienced as he must be. I couldn't know then that this encounter would one day put me in an even worse spot underwater. Without air, struggling for my life. My newfound friend had little to say when we reached the surface. He was weak and wobbly and out of breath.
I thought for sure I was out of air. How long have you been diving? I'm just learning. Why didn't you pull your J valve? What's that? The lever for your emergency air supply. This. What kind of an instructor did you have anyway? He ought to be arrested.
I'm his instructor, thank you. Mr. Cap, you had no business going off by yourself.
He had no business being in the water at all. How long have you been an instructor?
Long enough.
You got an instructor certificate?
No.
In this county, it's against the law to teach without one.
Well, I'm sure I can get one.
Yeah. The tests aren't easy.
How would you know?
I helped give them.
I didn't know what I was letting myself in for when I spoke my piece that time. A week later, I started a new class of applicants for instructors' licenses. As I called the roll for the first time to get acquainted with my new pupils, I hardly expected to find a familiar face. But there she was, Gracie Bond by name, and with a look in her eye that spelled trouble. I must say she handled herself very well. She swam as if she'd been skin diving all her life. For a while, I thought I'd been wrong about her attitude. Next came the underwater breath-holding test.
my time.
Just about a minute.
Oh, let me try it again. I can stay down much longer than that.
No, that won't be necessary. You qualified.
But barely, huh? You are just determined to keep me from demonstrating how wrong you are and how wrong you've been.
You're the one who's wrong, Miss Bond. I'd like to see you get that certificate.
Well, it certainly doesn't look that way.
She has quite a temper, hasn't she?
Yeah. All right.
The real showdown came when the class went out to the ocean. First, we did routine procedures such as clearing masks and removal of the mouthpiece. Finally, I demonstrated to the class the technique of ditching a tank and recovering it. This is one of the most important tests of confidence and self-discipline for a diver. I had taught them how to rise slowly, letting out air, and to go back down after one breath. We returned to our diving boat. I paired off the candidates for their ditching test. I gave them 2 final orders. Don't go below 25 feet, and under no circumstances, leave your buddy. Gracie and her partner were the first pair down. The bottom I had picked out was no more than the necessary 25 feet down. But close by, it dropped sharply to nearly 60 feet. And that was just what Gracie was looking for. Gracie's buddy prepared to ditch his equipment, while she prepared to ditch him. She was always trying to prove that she was better than anyone else. And a chance to come up from 60 feet instead of 25 looked to her like a good way to do it. When Gracie's diving buddy came up alone and yelled out his story to me, I wasted no time getting into the water myself. Even as I swam toward her, I could tell that she wasn't in any trouble. In fact, she seemed to be doing everything exactly as it should be done. I offered her air from my tanks, but she signaled that she didn't want any. She was determined to make the surface in one breath, and she wasn't going to spoil it now.
Now, don't tell me you weren't impressed. You angry with me?
Anyone who can't take instructions certainly can't give them.
You're not washing me out.
Yes, for the protection of other people, as well as for yourself.
Look, I gotta have that certificate. I got a job waiting for me as instructor at the New Malaga Shores Hotel. It's the best job I ever had.
Yeah, well, I'd rather you lose your job than lose your life.
Oh, Mr. Nelson, you're a pompous, stuffy square.
We'll row you back to shore, huh?
No, thank you. I'll swim in.
I thought that I'd seen the last of her. That was my mistake. A big mistake. Almost a fatal one. Gracie Bond was the last person on my mind as I rode down the street of a lazy Caribbean seaport a few months later. I was down here on business, searching for some extremely rare sea specimens. So far, I hadn't found what I was looking for. I stopped cold to watch a giant sea turtle hightailing at full speed for the surface. Then I saw the reason for its haste. It was being pursued by a girl diver. She caught up to the turtle and hung on for the ride. There was something very familiar about this girl. She looked like Gracie Bond, and she acted like Gracie Bond. But I figured the island was big enough for both of us, if I kept to my end of it. I couldn't keep to my end of the island. I needed an air compressor to pump my tanks, and the only one available was at the Hotel Carioca, where they advertised skin diving lessons and spearfishing trips, all in charge of Miss Gracie Bond. I hoped maybe that it was another Gracie Bond. It wasn't.
Welcome, Mr. Nelson. I heard you were around asking for an air compressor. You're welcome to use ours anytime you'd like it.
When I turn it on, will it explode?
You know, I wouldn't have landed in this wonderful place if we hadn't had that, shall I say, misunderstanding. You really helped me.
You mean I'm no longer a pompous, stuffy square?
No, you're not. I'm very willing to let bygones be bygones if you are, Mike. And I haven't drowned a single pupil yet.
No narrow escapes?
And no narrow escapes.
Huh?
No. As a matter of fact, I'm truly glad you're here. I've got a favor to ask.
Feed myself to the sharks, huh?
No. I've just located a very unusual cave a little beyond Pirate Bay. Looks like a wonderful place for practice dives. But I'm not sure about letting my pupils use it, whether it's really safe or not. Would you make a dive with me and look it over?
Well, it's not the cave that I'm concerned about, it's you.
But I've changed, Mike. Come with me. I'll show you how well behaved I am.
It's amazing.
What?
What a pretty girl can do to a guy.
Try my back?
I really wanted to believe that Gracie had reformed. And on our way out to Pirate Bay aboard the Chestnut, she did her best to convince me. The fish weren't interested in our bait, but I was certainly taking hers. What she really wanted was to come back home, get her instructor's license, and settle down. Despite the glamorous job she now had, she was homesick. And she was working on me to win me over. She figured that I was the key to getting that license. When we finally anchored in Pirates Bay, I went out to set up our diving raft. Gracie started implementing her plan. That was my air tank she was fooling with. She removed my regulator. Now she put the regulator on a set of tanks, exactly like mine. Only thing, they were less than half full of air. Having exchanged the regulators, she switched the position of the tanks. I'd never know that I was going below without enough air to get back up. I could see that in one way, at least, Gracie hadn't changed. She wanted to be far out in front as she led the way down to the cave. But when we reached the cave, I decided that I had better go in first. It was an interesting cave, but it was narrow and twisting. Certainly no place for students. I hesitated because there were so many obstructions ahead. Then I went on alone to see whether it was safe. All of a sudden, I inhaled and got no air. I reached for my emergency valve. It did no good. I looked to Gracie for help. Why was she standing there? She could see that I was in trouble. But Gracie had planned it this way, not to come to my rescue till I'd really appreciate it. This she hadn't planned, getting hung up herself. Nor this, tearing her air hose loose. Now we were both in trouble, bad trouble. She had air, but her breathing apparatus was wrecked. I had no air, but my breathing apparatus worked. There was nothing to do but try to switch mine to her tank, if we could both hold our breath till the job was done. Gracie, I remembered, couldn't hold her breath long. I worked feverishly. She held on. Gracie, the irresponsible, was at last behaving like a grown-up, despite lungs that threatened to burst and a sensation of panic that could have made her swim blindly to destruction. Her every reaction was the right one. As we finally swam toward the surface, sharing our air, I felt that she had at last proven herself. The truth didn't come out till later.
Hey, you all right? Huh?
You know why you ran out of air down there, Mike? It wasn't a mechanical failure. It was a human failure. I let half the air out of your tank.
What?
Oh, it was a reckless, stupid thing to do. But I thought it would give me a chance to help you and to make you grateful. And instead, it only proved that all those things you once said about me are true.
I ought to wring your neck.
I know. Oh, Mike, I've never been so scared.
Well, good. Maybe that's what you needed. Maybe now you'll take responsibility the way it should be taken. Some people only learn the hard way. They're lucky enough to live through it. Do you think you have learned anything this time?
Oh, I have, Mike. I have.
Well, basically, you have got what it takes. I mean, you came through all right down there when you had to.
Does that mean you're going to give me another chance to try for that certificate?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, Mike, what can I ever do to repay you?
Try my back. Hi there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is certainly a lot of fun, and it's full of adventure. See some more of it again next week, huh? When there'll be another excursion into that fabulous underwater world of Sea Hunt.
Exploring the ocean floor or investigating an underwater cave often brings me face to face with the unexpected hazards of nature. But the hazards of a man-made waterway can be far more deadly, particularly when it passes through forbidden territory. My first encounter with a new kind of man-made hazard was about to take place at Nassau Beach Lodge in the Bahamas. I had been waiting to be contacted for a new assignment while in the company of a much more welcome and pleasant hazard, which soon fell victim to the inevitable interruption. A message informing me that my expected visitor was on his way to meet me in my room.
Mike Nelson?
That's right.
Lee Bellin.
State Department told me about you. All set up.
Good. You understand, of course, I'm here strictly in an unofficial capacity. In fact, it might even be said that this is an entirely nonpartisan and privately sponsored venture.
That's legal, isn't it?
It's legal, all right.
That's all I care about.
The man we want you to get out of Costa Delta is no ordinary refugee. His name is Fernando Casca, and he ran the only political opposition newspaper under the present dictatorship. And he may one day return as liberator of his country in the interest of the free world. Could you turn off the light, please?
Sure.
In the meantime, Casca sought political asylum in a friendly embassy in the midst of the city. Now, as you know, Costa Delta is the stronghold of the dictatorship, and as such has the most closely guarded harbor on the whole South American coast. Now, they can't keep Casca in the embassy indefinitely. Yet it's only by a water route that we can ever hope to penetrate the city itself, right up to the embassy. Now, that's where you come in.
Oh, I thought you said the embassy was in the middle of the city, not on the waterfront.
Correct. But the larger part of Costa Delta is riddled with man-made canals, like this. One of these canals leads directly to the embassy's annex building, which is located within its extraterritorial grounds, and is accessible by way of this boathouse. Now, it's at this boathouse where you'll pick up Casca and guide him back out to the harbor, the same way you swam in.
Well, it seems easy enough.
The dictatorship agrees with you. That's why you'll find the entrance to the canal so closely guarded. In fact, the watch has been doubled ever since Casca found asylum in the embassy, and the canal was recognized as his most logical route of escape. Additional guards have been strategically stationed all along this anticipated route. Along with that, you'll have to cope with the constant vigil of the harbor patrol. Avoiding this patrol must be one of your prime efforts, considering that you may be spotted by it when our float plane drops you just outside the bay and picks you up there at a prearranged time with Casca. Now, Casca, you might suspect, is not an experienced diver. Still too easy?
Not for a two-way trip. Hey, why don't I make my first trip to the embassy on foot?
You're too well known in your field to risk recognition. Besides, you'll need the exploratory experience to find the grill.
Grill?
It's something like a stationary submarine net, obstructing any underwater passage right at the opening of the canal. That's right there.
I see.
Now, somewhere along this grill, there's an opening that's big enough for you to slip through. Now, you'll have to find that.
That's right along here, eh?
That's it. Now, after our plane drops you just outside the bay, you head directly for this buoy.
Oh, and here's where the plane drops.
That's right.
On the buoys, yeah, I see.
Good. This buoy is your last surface checkpoint. Now, from there on into the embassy, you're going to have to travel strictly by compass. Always bear in mind, Nelson, that this harbor is full of eyes. And if they see that plane come down, they'll all be looking for you.
As scheduled, we landed off the coast of Costa Delta at 7 a.m. plane was to rendezvous with me promptly at 3 that afternoon. If I wasn't there, it would take off without me. Or Casca. "30 seconds later, I hit the water and was on my own. Figuring that the plane might have been spotted, I tried to avoid Costa Delta's sharp eyes by heading deep as possible. I relied on my compass for further directions. My next checkpoint was just a few yards ahead. So was the harbor patrol. Fortunately, the water wasn't too clear. That helped conceal me from the surface. End of the first lap. The next and toughest was yet to come, and clearly visible. Above, the harbor patrol continued its relentless search. I couldn't even guess whether they had spotted my bubbles. And in the murky water, I had gotten off course. The harbor entrance and its grill were several degrees off northeast. By now, I had reached the seawall. End of lap 2. It was time to get my bearings again, even though it meant that I would again have to expose myself. The opening in the grill was supposed to be somewhere to the extreme left of the canal entrance. The map did not pinpoint its exact position. When I spotted it, I breathed easier, but not too heavily, I hoped, because my telltale bubbles could be a dead giveaway. The choppy surface and some plain old-fashioned luck permitted me to slip through into the canal unnoticed. But from here on, security measures were even tighter. Every inch of the restricted area seemed to be patrolled with a fine-tooth comb. And even a small trail of air bubbles could attract a barrage of bullets, from which there would be no avenue of escape. As I passed the ladder, I made a mental note of its location, just in case. The sentry had come too close for comfort. If I passed him, he was bound to spot my bubble trail. The only way to get by was to hold my breath. I was clear and free again, until some carefree youngsters decided to pick a spot just a few yards ahead for an impromptu swimming hole. I counted on them being sufficiently preoccupied with themselves to take a chance in passing them. Their splashing might even help in covering up my path. I had reached the final lap to the Embassy Annex building. Was this my correct destination? Or could its description fit the one next to it? There was only one way to find out. Head into it. In order to save a famous freedom fighter, I had penetrated Costa Delta's closely guarded interior for over a mile. And yet I couldn't be sure that this was the embassy's boathouse, where I was to pick up Fernando Casca, the fugitive from the dictatorship. I particularly couldn't be sure, since there seemed to be no one there to meet me. And then it became quite obvious why. The boathouse doors were wide open, and a well-watched place like this was hardly appropriate for hearty welcomes. Somebody had been playing chess here, and only recently. I wanted to be sure that I wasn't the pawn.
Going hunting, old man? Rather early in the season, don't you think?
That depends. Who are you expecting?
Mike Nelson, of course. You're 20 minutes late. You caused us some rather anxious moments, you know.
I had some anxious moments myself.
I'm Lloyd Shepard, military attaché to the ambassador.
Are you?
I am. As Mr. Casca will no doubt confirm. Mike Nelson, meet Mr. Fernando Casca, the man all the shouting is about.
From what I understand, well worth it. It's a privilege, sir.
Thank you. You took much trouble for one man.
You've taken a lot of trouble for thousands.
You must be very tired and hungry.
You have 1 hour to restore your energy and 1 to give Mr. Casca some pointers on diving.
That doesn't give us much time.
Mr. Casca's a very apt pupil. He learned to shoot the very moment they tried to capture him.
Well, that's good. It's gonna be a rough trip. But not waste any time.
It's all as clear as it ever will be. You can't afford any delays. The weather people report a storm brewing off the coast. If you keep your rendezvous to the exact minute, you may get out from under just in time. You sure you feel up to it, old man?
The spirit is willing. Ask him about the rest of me.
You're gonna be fine. Thanks. Nice meeting you.
Vaya con Dios, old man. Okay.
Once he got in the water, Casca handled himself well. Surprisingly enough, in his first underwater experience, his breathing, too, seemed to come quite easy. It seemed that all was going well, until I discovered that Casca's mask was full of water, that he was not able to clear it. With patrols becoming more concentrated as we went on, it was impossible to surface. For an inexperienced diver, there is nothing more horrifying than water filling his mask. Breathing is difficult, and the sense of suffocation is almost too much to cope with. In spite of his panic, Casca held on, fully aware of the even greater danger above. If we were to pass him now, without him seeing our telltale bubbles, we both would have to hold our breath. I tried to make Casca understand about it as best I could, but only shutting off his air for him would do the trick. We made it past the sentry all right, but the experience and the lack of air were too much for Casca. His mask was still full of water. Getting him to the surface immediately was the only way to save him from drowning. I remembered the ladder that I had passed once before.
You got water up your nose. Your mask isn't tight enough. Boy, you're doing just fine. Now listen, if you happen to get any water in your mask this time, press hard on the side, roll over on the opposite side, and blow hard. Understand?
I'll try.
You're doing just great now. That's fine. Did you get your breath? You want to go back now?
See.
Let's go.
See.
You can't go in here. Spot us. Come on, this way. Come on. We'll get our breath. Let's get out of here. We're not to jump. From here? It's the only way. We jump with all these. Come on, we can do it. Here. Hold that mask tight against your face. That's right, like that. The mouthpiece in. Bite hard on it. All right, boy, let's go.
The impact of the dive had loosened Casca's mask again, filling it with water. I was hoping that he could clear it. But tricks like that couldn't be learned overnight, particularly under pressure. We had to pass the canal's entrance before I could give him any help. And he couldn't possibly take another air shut-off. So we took a chance by passing through as fast as our full breath would allow. I was sure that a search for us had been started above and was being intensified every minute. But water serves as nature's finest camouflage. That had been the prime consideration in the original concept of this mission. Now that I had regained my bearings, and Casca seemed to have gotten a better feel of things, I thought it safer to take the home stretch at the lowest and safest level. Down here, it felt like home again. Nature gave you better odds than man. The rendezvous was on, with an unexpected reception committee at hand. Escape was close, much too close. But for Casca now, the fight for freedom could go on. The fight that was only just beginning.
Hi there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is certainly a lot of fun, and it's full of adventure. See some more of it again next week, huh? When there'll be another excursion into that fabulous underwater world of Sea Hunt.